Hello, beauties. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I'm excited to launch my first official video on this channel called 30 Lessons on My 30th Birthday. This list will not be in order as I wanted to demonstrate that growth is not linear and that all of these lessons came with time and experience. I hope you enjoy this video, and please like and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. So the first one on my list today is going to be that you are not behind. Timelines are made up. I may reference my notebook here because I did write some notes for some of this. I tried to write notes for all of them, but honestly, there is so much in my head. I was like, am I really going to be like reading all of this off the page the whole time? No. But there are a few important things I would like to say about some of these, so I will read some of these out of my notebook, but I'm probably not going to read all of them. But as far as this one goes, I think often we're operating on a timeline, something that we learn pretty early growing up. The expectation is to go to college, get the job in that field, meet the love of your life before your 30s, get married, have children, and retire, and basically live out the American dream, right? Whatever that means. Because of this pressure from society and people close to you, it can often leave me feeling behind because none of these things have happened. Yet, what I have learned is that timelines are made up and that I can go my own pace and still be happy. And I pretty much live by that nowadays. Like, my timeline is my timeline. No one else can dictate what that looks like. No one else can tell me I'm doing better or less than others. It is wholly up to me to decide where I want to be now and for the rest of my life. And I just want to take that seriously, you know? And number two, being a good friend doesn't mean being an enabler. So I had some thoughts on that one. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I always struggled with friendship growing up. Moving away from my childhood neighborhood the summer before 7th grade, it really made me feel isolated in a way that was uncomfortable a lot of the times. Because of that isolation, I was taking friends where I could get them. I loved every friend I had because even though I didn't realize it at the time, I was afraid of losing them. Because of that, I allowed them to harm themselves as well as me often. I was too scared to speak up. I've learned that true friends don't enable each other. They love, protect, and are honest to each other. And honestly, I stand by that. I think oftentimes I've learned that, how do I put this? Oftentimes I have learned that people, real friends, appreciate when you don't sugarcoat things, when you don't lie to them, when you're honest with them. And I think your friendships last longer and become more meaningful when you do that. And number three is get comfortable with being alone. Okay, so this definitely isn't just something that's a me thing. But the older I get, the more I've really learned to cherish my alone time. I had to get used to being alone pretty quickly. There was a point where it made me really depressed, honestly. But now I can't wait to be alone, and that's no shade to anyone at all. I just really need to charge my social batteries sometimes. I feel like I'm really an empath a lot of the times, and as much as I am a social butterfly and I love being in social situations and I'm very comfortable in social situations most of the time. I do have anxiety, so it can't be all of the time, but I try my best to be as outgoing and as social as I can and that my body allows me to be. But I'll be honest, like, because of my empathic nature, like, it doesn't take very long for me to get emotionally and physically exhausted being around people, even if nothing emotionally strenuous is happening. It doesn't really matter. I could be having a positive or negative experience, or even like a middle of the road experience, and my energy will deplete very quickly. And sometimes I need multiple days to recuperate, which is difficult. So yeah, I grew up spending a lot of time alone, and it never really bothered me. And then once I got into middle school and realized that I was actually alone, that's when I think it really started to bother me more. But now as an adult, like I said, like I really just can't wait to get alone. Like please just let me be alone for a little while. Like I swear, like I'll talk to you in a couple of hours. Just let me go, no contact. I don't want to look at my text messages. I don't want no one to talk to me. I don't want to have to respond to nobody. And I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with being alone. And um, if if you can live your life being surrounded by people at all times, good for you. But I know for me and what I've learned in my 30 years of living is that I need my alone time, or else I'm just not gonna have the energy for anything. And that sucks. That sucks more than being alone, is not having the energy for anything, because my energy is constantly depleted, because I'm just, that's just how I've always been. So yeah, I don't know. That's all I gotta say about that one. And then number 4 is travel if you can. I know traveling isn't always accessible to everyone, and with the current political climate, you may not want to, and Lord knows I can afford to right now if I wanted to. What I do know is that when I have been able to travel, whether it has been all up and down the East Coast or to the Midwest where I am now, or even to Canada. When I was in high school, I went and visited Canada for the first time, which was wonderful. It really enriched my life, and learning about different people and places is so incredibly important. And I think if you have the chance to, you should definitely try to travel, even if it's just in your state. Like, shoot, if you live in Texas, like you can drive 5 hours away and be in a whole different place and learn a lot about a lot of different people. So, just, take yourself out of your comfort zone as much as you can. Like, I know it's hard and sometimes it's scary. You're not always able to afford it, and I totally get that. But if you are and you can, highly suggest doing it, because I think it totally just makes a massive difference culturally, and in your personal life. So definitely suggest that. So next is number 5. Ignorance is not bliss, and I want to explain what I mean by that. Wise words I've started to live by thanks to an incredible trans non-binary poet visionary named Alok. Please look them up if you would like to. I'll link their YouTube in the description. But I just love the full quote from the Man Enough podcast, which Alok happened to be on while they were still doing that podcast. And the quote basically goes, ignorance is bliss until you take away the bliss, and then it's just ignorance. And I think that's just like an incredibly important quote that really stuck with me. I think that a lot of people have grown up hearing this idea that ignorance is bliss. And yes, to a certain degree, that is true, but as a marginalized person, there's only so much. It's only bliss for the person that's deciding to be woefully ignorant. But if someone's being ignorant towards you, that bliss suddenly disappears for someone on the other end of it. So I don't know. I I think about that quote often, and wanted to share that quote with you all, because I think that it just really speaks to a level of awareness that you should have. I don't think it's acceptable in 2025 with the internet and all of the publications and things that we have access to now to feign ignorance in really anything. I mean, sure, like you can't know everything and there's always room to learn, but I think to actively choose to be ignorant because A, it doesn't affect you, or B, it doesn't make any sense to you, or whatever the case may be, I think that's a tired way of thinking, and that just ignorance isn't bliss anymore. And uh, we shouldn't be maintaining that status quo, because what the hell even is that? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And so next is going to be number 6. Never stop reading. This one's simple. In any period in my life where I stopped reading books, articles, poetry, etc., I found myself my speaking abilities dampening, honestly, and my vocabulary not nearly up to par, and my knowledge waning. And that's just personally how I feel. And every time I start picking up books again, and I start delving back into whatever it is, fantasy, nonfiction, science fiction, articles, like poetry, it doesn't matter. Just read something, anything, please. I promise you, your speaking skills will just go to higher levels. Your vocabulary will also reach higher levels. Like, people think that you're smarter because of the things that you know from reading nonfiction books, or I don't know, memoirs even of different people that you admire. Like, it gives you more things to talk about. It makes you more interesting. It makes you more culturally adept. Like, I think everyone should read, or at the very least listen to audiobooks, because even audiobooks, hearing the words auditorially, can also help with your vocabulary and how you speak, and how you present yourself when you're speaking. Being able to hear how people pronounce things is also really nice with that. I don't know. I've always been a reader all my life. I was one of those people that, like, would walk on the sidewalk reading. Like, I'd be walking down the street and run into a stop sign because I'm reading a book while walking. That was the type of a book obsession that I had. So I know that it's not that deep for everyone, but if you can just read a little bit in a month, like, trust me when I say, like, you'll feel sharper, and you'll feel like you have things to talk about more. And I don't know, I just think that with all the technology that we have right now, I feel like less and less people are reading, and that's really unfortunate. We all should be reading more often, and that's just my opinion, but it's how I feel. So, yeah. And then number 7, you can be likable and not need everyone to like you. And this one took me a long time to this one took me a long time to understand. I believe that you can be kind, honest, and fun, and not have to be friends with everyone you meet. And not everyone is meant to be your friend, and that is facts. I think for the longest time, like, I struggled with friendships, and I wanted friends so bad that I let a lot of things go because of that. And yeah, we don't need everyone. I don't strive for everyone to like me anymore. Yeah. I know I'm likable. Like, I know I'm likable, but I'm not looking for people to like me. Like, if they do, great, but I ain't forcing that shit no more. I ain't begging no one. Not anymore. Never again, honestly. And number 8, stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself, y'all. Please advocate for yourself. Please, 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 I beg you. And if you don't know how, there are things online, people, therapists who know how, what things you can do, what actions you can take, what things you can even say to get you there. I definitely went through a lot of therapy on creating boundaries and advocating for myself within those boundaries, and what that means, and how you shouldn't feel guilty about standing up for yourself or creating boundaries, and that you shouldn't feel bad about that, because at the end of the day, you have to protect yourself and your energy and your space, and that's what's important. And if you don't know how to do that, my therapist taught me like specific things that I could say, because my biggest issue was not knowing what to say when those moments came up. And then yeah, so she just taught me little phrases to keep in my head. One of my favorite ones that I used one time, right before I moved to Kansas. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite stories. I never in my life have dismissed someone before. That's not really my MO. I don't really speak up for myself like that. Clearly that's why this is one of these things. And me and one of my best friends from my hometown, we were at this local bar that we always go to. I've been going there with my parents since I was in high school. I've volunteered there for some of their big events and stuff. I've been to their worker appreciation parties, all this stuff. So like, I'm very well known at that place. I've been going there ever since I turned 21. I've dated people who have worked there. So like, I'm very embedded within the culture of that specific local spot. And I was having drinks with my friend not long before I moved to the Midwest, and this drunk guy came with this drunk lady, and they just were going at it the whole night. And eventually she was just like, screw you, dude, like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And of course, the minute she was like, screw you, dude, like, like, I'm good, like, I'm going home. He knew my best friend from a job that they had worked together, and so he immediately like tried to like latch onto us at our table while we're drinking. I'm kind of drunk at this point. Yeah, I'm drunk. I'm not gonna say tipsy. I was kind of drunk at this point. And he just wouldn't leave us alone. And my best friend, she's married, she's got a wonderful husband. Now she has a beautiful daughter with him, but at the time she wasn't pregnant yet. And but she was married, had been married for over a year at that point. And he just was like flirting with her and saying all this stuff, and she kept hinting to him like, hey, like, this is. And we both, not just her, we both kept hinting at him like, hey, like, this is one of our last nights together before I move. Like, we'd really love to just spend some time with each other, blah blah blah. Just trying to be polite about it. Just trying to be peachy keen, like, chill, whatever, whatever. And like, he wasn't really listening, and he kept getting more like closer to her and trying to like touch her, and like, I was getting pissed off at this point, and normally I wouldn't really say anything. um and like, every time, and like, I this was the point where I was going through therapy about the boundaries thing, so I was really trying to practice actively in my day-to-day life, like, like, standing up for myself. And like, I said it once, and I was very polite, and I was like, hey, like, it's our last night, like, do you mind? And he pretty much ignored me, and I was like, damn. And like, and then I did a second time, and I was still calm, and I said kind of the same thing but with different words, and he still pretty much ignored me, didn't acknowledge really that I had said anything. And then I was finally like, you know what, dude? And I just turned to him, and I was like, I'm not sure if you heard me, but you're dismissed. I never dismissed someone like that in my life. And he did not know what to do. All of a sudden, he could not ignore me. He was pissed, fucking pissed that I set a boundary with him. And I had set a boundary with him twice already, and he ignored me. So then I used a word that I knew he wouldn't like, but that would get his attention so he couldn't ignore me anymore. And did he leave us alone? Yes. Did he also try and say that he was going to get the bartender and they were going to kick us out and we don't know who he is? Yeah. But you know what? You know what he did? You know what? I felt his energy, and you know what he ended up doing? Get himself kicked out because he ended up picking a fight with the dude because he couldn't pick a fight with me because I was a woman. And screw that shit. I'm trying not to curse too much in this video, so I don't get demonetized on my first video. But that's my story. About speaking up for myself, and but yeah, that's a core memory. And I remember my best friend turned to me after he left, and she was just like, I was about to stand up for you, but then when you said that shit, she was like, girl, I just sat back and was like, I never seen this girl before, but that's my best friend. Oh my gosh, so good, so good. Okay, anyways, so after that is number 9, which is always ask. The worst you can hear is no. I think we all have heard this at some point in our life. Is to never be afraid to ask what you want. I learned to practice in small ways first. It's still a work in progress, but I am learning. Because once I ask, like, I'm good. But, like, it's the anxiety leading up to asking that always is the thing that, like, kind of catches me off guard a lot. But yeah, 90% of the time, anytime I've ever asked for anything, I've hardly ever gotten a no. And if I had, it was never really that bad. So I just think we put too much, I won't speak for everyone, but I, in the past, have put too much anxiety into the idea of asking for what I want or what I need. And now that I'm 30 years old, like, come on, man. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't ask, who gonna ask? Who gonna ask? It's gotta be me. It's gotta be me that asks. So that's it. And so next is number 10. Comparison is the thief of joy. I know this is easier said than done, and trust me, I know from experience, and I still struggle with comparing myself to others, especially when it comes to that pesky timeline I was talking about earlier. But the less I focused on how I compared to others, the more joy I could experience. I won't say that I've completely stopped comparing myself to others. Sometimes you do fall into that trap. But nowadays, yeah, I don't really, you know, there's no one like me, and there will never be another me, and that is truly 100% how I feel at this age now. So therefore, there is no one to compare to because there is no one who is me. That is it. I am the only one. I'm the only Eva that I know. I won't say my government name because that'd be crazy. But at the end of the day, like, there's nobody like me, and I know that. And as long as I know that, who can I really compare myself to? Nobody. And for damn sure, don't compare yourself to me, because stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop comparing yourself to others. Thank you. That's my TED Talk, and we're gonna move on to the next one, 11. No longer serving you, let it go. Throw it out in the trash. I'm telling you, like, for real. If it's not serving you, let it go. And I feel like up until a few years ago, I was constantly forcing myself to stay in jobs or with relationships because I was afraid to let go, even if it wasn't serving me, which often resulted in a lot of anxiety and trauma. At the end of the day, I know what I need best, so trust your instincts. And I can't express this enough. Like, please, 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 you know, there's no point hurting yourself or prolonging something that's hurting you just to save face, just to not seem like the angry person, to just not seem like you're overreacting, or, whatever the case may be. You gotta let it go, Bessie, please. Like, please, I promise you'll feel way better. I promise you. It feels a lot better knowing that I can just let it go. Let them. If you haven't read the book, Let Them, you need to read the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, because that shit has honestly changed my life. And yeah. And then next is number 12, trust your gut. And this kind of goes along with number 11. Um, and I believe fully, like, I feel like my anxiety has kind of become my gut, and sometimes I can't really tell if it's anxiety or my gut working, but they've served me in ways that I can never fully describe. And there's probably a billion stories that I could tell y'all that involve what trusting my gut has looked like in the past. None of them appropriate or monetizable stories, so I won't say them. But just know that they're there and that it's important to trust your gut, because all the times that I have trusted my gut and acted on my gut feelings, it was always positive. Never have I had a negative experience from trusting my gut. And I need to do it more often. And I still struggle with it. And I'll probably struggle with it for the rest of my life because I have anxiety. But I know now that I have the ability to handle things and have the experience to handle things. And so, therefore, I should trust my gut more often. And with that, we are moving on to number 13, heal your inner child whenever you can. I just think that once we become an adult, we start getting in this rat race of making money, paying our rent, paying our bills, paying, taking care of children, whatever it is, we have so much on our plates that I think we forget to really feed our inner child, whatever that means for you. For me, it's video games. For me, it's writing poetry. For me, it's going and doing fun things with my friends and my partner, like, amusement parks, the jazz bar, going to a tattoo convention. Do whatever feeds your inner child. I think a lot of the things that have brought me the most joy are things that fed my inner child. Growing up, my parents didn't have a lot of money to go on vacations, to go to amusement parks. Those were things that we just didn't do as a family. And so one year I was making great money, and me and my best friend Amy, we took a trip to Orlando Studios. So Orlando Studios, we went there, and that really fed my inner child. It really fed my inner child to go with her, and I was really blessed and happy to have had that experience. I mean, I had been to Busch Gardens growing up, but it just wasn't the same. Something about it was because Busch Gardens was like, that was the place my grandfather would take me when I would visit him in Tampa. And don't get me wrong, I really loved Busch Gardens, but my grandfather was already older by that time. And so for the most part, I was doing a lot of things alone in the park. He would go find somewhere to sit, and that would be like my North Star, and that's where I could always expect to find him. But then I would basically be like I don't know, 10-year-old walking around the amusement park by myself, going on all the rides because I looked old enough and I was tall enough, and he was too old to go on them with me. So, like, I was kind of just by myself. And even though I don't mind being alone, that was a part of my childhood that I remember where I wish, dang, I wish, like, I could have company while doing this and I could have more fun. So, uh, going to Orlando Studios was one of those things that really fed my inner child. And I think that's, as we get older, I think feeding our inner child and being playful and fun and making jokes, like, there's nothing wrong with that, and that doesn't dismiss your maturity in any way, shape, or form. Anyone who tells you that it does, um, they need they need to explore that, they need to heal their inner child too, because shoo, like, Man, if you can't be silly and have fun, and like if everyone is telling me all the time that you're too old to do this and do that, like, you know, stop doing that. Throw all that away. Like, that's boring. Like, I'm over that. Like, no one in my life is ever gonna tell me that I'm too old for anything. I'm not too old to dye my hair. I'm not too old to grow it out. I'm not too old to go to a bouncy house. Like, I'm not too old. Stop telling people that. Stop that, because that's stupid. I'm tired of that. And number 14 is cluttered space, cluttered mind. My dad used to say this a lot to me growing up. I was experiencing a lot of depression, so honestly, like, I couldn't really hear it. Like, I heard it, but it wasn't like metabolizing in my body and in my emotional state the way that it could. And as an adult, I definitely see how he was 100% correct in that. I can tell when my apartment is cleaner, what headspace I'm in, and what headspace I'm in when my apartment is messy. Right now, it's kind of messy. And honestly, that's because my mind is cluttered. It's cluttered. Like, I got a lot going on, and I'm trying to figure things out, and I'm stressed, and I'm having money problems, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with this apartment, and and like battling, like feeling like I'm behind in this stupid timeline, all this stuff. So I definitely have fully subscribed to the idea that a cluttered space is definitely also a cluttered mind, and that both those things will reflect onto each other. So you definitely want to pay attention to that and be mindful, and also not to stress yourself out if you feel like you have a cluttered space and a cluttered mind. Something that's been helping me recently with the cluttered mind and the cluttered space is once a week I pull out my journal and I just info dump on a page all the things that are on my mind, all the things that I've been thinking of doing that I haven't done, that I'm getting myself on. I need to pay rent. My room's not clean. The dishes haven't been done. I need to start applying to new jobs. I need to find a new apartment. Whatever it is, all these things that are running through your head, write it down on a piece of paper. Get it all out in your head. See how empty your head feels after that. I promise you. You might still think about it a little bit, but it won't be constantly running, circulating through your mind. And then once you have that all down on a piece of paper, I promise you, Mel Robbins helped me with this. Well, she didn't physically help me with this, but I watched one of her videos and she was talking about this, and it genuinely has improved my life. Once you've written all that, decluttered your mind and put it onto a page, then just choose one thing from that list to get done that week. Just one thing. Just one thing. And then cross everything off the list. Just get one of those things off the list done. And it can be something that takes 5 minutes. It can be something that takes 10 minutes. It can be something that takes 20 minutes, an hour. Doesn't matter. Do it in increments if you want. Doesn't matter. Just do one thing. So this week, I wrote everything down. And the one thing was to finish recording this video. And that's the one thing I'm going to do this week. I'm going to be happy about it. And I am happy about it. And as you can see, I'm getting it done right now. And so I think that's been a really helpful process for me. And hopefully, maybe it'll help you too. And next is number 15, a capsule wardrobe. I'll post the link in the description for the capsule wardrobe. Basically, if you don't know what a capsule wardrobe is, it is a wardrobe of maybe 30 pieces. Damn, a lot of 30s. I think it might be 25 to 30 pieces, articles of clothing, all basics. So we're talking like white t-shirt, we're talking a pair of jeans, we're talking about a pair of khakis, we're talking about a button-up shirt, a blouse. And basically the idea of capsule wardrobe is once you have these basics of 30 items, and it's supposed to make it so that your wardrobe isn't extremely cluttered and that you're not swimming in clothes all the time, and it's supposed to make figuring out outfits easier for you, especially if you don't have a lot of time to pick out outfits but you still want to look nice. Capsule wardrobe is a really easy way to have all the basics in your closet, plus some dresses, a few skirts, blah blah blah, for different occasions, and to have all of that in your wardrobe and to be able to interchangeably use that in different ways where it looks different each time you wear it. And so, you know, your wardrobe and what you wear becomes less of a stressful matter. Now, as someone who likes a lot of fashion, I'm not going to sit here and say that my wardrobe only consists of a capsule wardrobe. What is it? Criteria, I suppose is the word. But I will say that I did dive deep into the capsule wardrobe. I have a lot of those basic pieces in my wardrobe, and they have 100% helped me in those moments where I don't know what to wear and I'm having decision paralysis and need to put on something to wear quickly. Um, so even though my wardrobe is bigger than a capsule wardrobe, having those basics and knowing what those basics are have severely helped me in the past, like, I don't know, how long has it been? Since COVID, I think is when I found out about capsule wardrobes. So I've really enjoyed using that as a blueprint for my wardrobe and then expanding on it. So I highly suggest that if you would like to get into something like that. Number 16 has nothing to do with capsule wardrobes. Your parents do the best they can with the tools that they have, and I will stand by that. I have wonderful parents. Were they perfect? No. Did they make a lot of mistakes? Yes. Did some of those things kind of traumatize me? Yes. Do some of those things still affect me to this day? Yes. Did they do that on purpose? Not always. No. And and I don't blame them. It took me a long time to get to that point. I think a lot of times in my high school years, I definitely blamed my mom and my dad for a lot of things, not realizing what they went through, their stories, um, how much I didn't know that they sheltered me from, and also the things that I wasn't seeing and the traumas that they had experienced behind closed doors as adults and as children and as teenagers before I even knew them, before I was even born. So taking all of that into account, I have to recognize that um my parents did the best they could with the tools that they have, and that's not excusing any parents out there who have done terrible things. I just think that we have at some point we realize that our parents are also humans and that they also have lives and they're also not perfect. I know for a lot of that typically crushes our world for a little bit once we experience how human our parents truly are. And some of us experience that in more harsh ways than others. But um if you want people to give you grace, you also have to allow yourself to give others grace. And I think that's where I really resonate with that quote, for sure. And number 17 is growth is not linear. And I said this at the beginning of my intro of this video, but I fully do believe that growth is not linear. But also ties back into the whole timeline thing. Everyone grows differently, everyone has different experiences. The world is so nuanced, our, emotions, things we go through are so nuanced that there's no way that there's a specific blueprint to how people can grow and how people do grow. I think there's a lot of things that we can relate to, a lot of things that we can look to when we're trying to grow, but we also have to recognize that not everything works for everyone, and that's why I say that growth is not linear, just specifically because of that fact alone. And number 18 is therapy if you can. Because I know therapy is expensive, and trust me, y'all, I'm not in therapy right now. I wish I was in therapy right now, but it's just not in the cards for me. Hopefully, I'll get back into it soon. I also recognize that therapy is not for everyone, but I also want to impart on people, and this is something that honestly I've only really learned in the last several years is that I didn't realize when I first started getting therapists, because really I was getting government assistance to be able to afford therapy because my parents couldn't afford to pay for therapy out of pocket. So we got government assistance to be able to do that. And yeah, I'll be honest, like I didn't realize that these because of that, I did not realize that therapists work for me. They're here to serve me. So therefore, anytime I get a therapist, I am interviewing them to make sure that they are the right fit for me. I think a lot of people don't like therapy because they've had experiences in the past where the therapist was an awful person or made them feel guilty about certain things or didn't help them or enable them in some way, or all they did was talk but they never really gave me any solutions, or and I think people don't realize that when you have your first therapy session, as much as they're learning about you, that is your time to call them in and also learn about them and what their beliefs are and how they feel about certain things. I know that there's only so much they can say because of, practice laws, but um at the end of the day, like if you are a queer black person like I am, you need to know that when you start talking about the queer black experience, even if they're not queer themselves, that they understand and are open, and yeah, that they're open to hearing you out and to not being judgmental. Um, that's really important within therapy, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that they can do that they can interview their therapist, and that if that therapist doesn't work for them, they can find another one. I know that it's hard. I know that once you start getting to know therapists, you don't want to have to find another one, but that is what the first session is for. It's not just for them to learn about you, it's for you to learn about them. And then make the decision whether or not they are the right fit for you based off of that initial session. And also, keep in mind you should have an understanding of what you may actually need. Now, you may not always know, and that's what therapy is for, because the therapist should be good enough to tell you what type of therapy you may need. Like, talk therapy doesn't always work for people, there's a lot of other therapies that exist that are optional for people. So just look into it and, really do your research and really make sure that you are finding a therapist that's right for you and not just taking any one that you originally get signed to when you start signing up for therapy. And I think there's nothing wrong. You shouldn't feel ashamed to be able to do that. So there's that. And then next is number 19, exercise being compassionate. I know this is a hard one. I mean, it doesn't feel hard to me, but compassion is something that's always come naturally to me. I was bullied a lot growing up, and I always wanted to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. So I always gave people grace. I always give people compassion. Um, and I think this world makes me want to be jaded. And because of that, sometimes I push myself to practice even more compassion because of that, because I don't want to be jaded. I really don't. Like, I really, really don't want to be jaded. And there's so much going on in this world that makes me feel jaded, that makes me feel scared, that makes me feel like I don't want to talk to people, or, that I don't want to interact. And sometimes I make a lot of fear based decisions, and compassion really dissipates a lot of that. So show it where you can. I know not everyone deserves your compassion, but you should try to exercise it as much as possible. It's like a muscle. You have to exercise it. So number 20 is lead by example. That one's just pretty simple. I don't have a lot to say about that. I mean, I think that one speaks for itself. Do unto others as you would want done unto you, and keep it pushing, pretty much. Number 21 is being in service to others. I know not everyone has that personality trait, but for me, I've definitely learned that I'm at my happiest when I'm in service to others. And I try to do as much volunteer work as I can. I try to go and protest as much as I can. You know, I try to hold space for people when I can. Every time I've done that, without expecting anything back, the universe has always blessed me tenfold in so many different aspects of my life. And I know that's because the people around me and the universe recognizes that that it brings me joy to be in service to others, and that when I don't expect anything back, I typically get so much love and understanding and care from people. And I just feel blessed to even be in a position and to have the personality that I do to want to be in service to others. And even with the struggles that I've been having recently with money, I still find other ways to be in service to people. And I just think that's really important for my mental health and my standing in society and who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world. And then number 22 is there's more than one way to heal. I touched a little bit on that during the therapy part, but like I said, like therapy isn't for everyone. There's a bunch of different things that people have going on for them, whether it's medication, meditation, yoga, hiking, doing self-help books, just going out with your friends or having a night in with your friends and just having like cry sessions, whatever it is. Like there's so many different ways to heal. And like I said, growth is not linear, which also means that your healing journey is not linear. So, whatever works best for you, you should do it, as long as it's not hurting yourself or others. I feel like I always have to mention that whenever I say something like that. But yeah, there's more than one way to heal, and if you feel like you need to be on a healing journey, do your research and find what feels best for you and just do that. And if it doesn't work, find something else. Like, don't ever give up. That's all I can say on that. And then next is number 23, the spoon theory. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the spoon theory. So, what is the spoon theory? So, the spoon theory is a metaphor used to explain the limited energy and increased effort required to manage daily tasks for individuals with chronic illness, disabilities, and etc. So the spoon theory is really helpful for me because the spoon theory basically means that I wake up and I have this many spoons. And the more I do during the day, the more my spoons get dirty and the less spoons I have to use until they're all gone. And then I have to put them in the dishwasher and wash them so I have more spoons to use the next day or later or whatever the case. And that goes back to my whole empath thing where I have a hard time being in social situations for long periods of time without needing to recuperate. It's because I only have so many spoons, and once those spoons are depleted, like I got nothing left. And that spoon theory has helped me a lot to recognize how many spoons I start out with the day, and then to kind of mitigate that throughout the day. So yeah. Number 24, it's okay to not be okay. I say this a lot, but I fully stand by it. You don't have to be okay all the time. You don't have to put on a brave face all the time. You don't have to feel like you're strong all the time. As someone who's been depressed and anxious a lot of my life, I know a lot of people get tired of hearing, you're so strong. How can you be so strong? You're blah, this, that, and the third. no, I'm tired of being strong. I'm tired of being okay. I'm not okay. And I think that's the first step to growth. It's the first step to healing, is to admit that you're not okay. And then once you admit that, it's like, all right, well, what are the next steps? What do I have to do to be okay? And then also recognizing that not every day, just because you heal, you start on your healing journey, you feel like you're healing, you feel like you're growing, it doesn't mean that you're not still going to have days where you feel like you're not okay. And I think recognizing that and being okay with that is also part of the healing journey, and will infinitely help you not beat yourself up every time you don't feel okay. And there's about to be a thunderstorm, so we'll see. The power should be fine. Nope, not speaking that into existence. Power will be fine. It's fine. It's all good, you guys. It's totally fine. It's totally good. Okay, and then next is 25, learning about my attachment style, which is a fearful attachment style. And basically what that means is that um I've operated in relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever it is, co-worker relationships, all of that, in a fearful way, where my fear is of loss, that when is the shoe gonna drop? My anxiety surrounds that. So I'm always waiting for me not to be good enough at my job, or for someone to find someone that's better than me or serves them more than them, or that I'm not enough in some way, shape, or so I'm always trying to beat people to the punch, which can be a negative thing. I can be my own worst enemy. And I think the fearful attachment style, from what I've read, a lot of it stems from um, you know, a lot of it stems from being afraid of being left in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, and I think it's really important. I know that a lot of people nowadays reference the attachment styles a lot, and you hear anxious attachment style or avoidant attachment style all the time. And I totally get it. And I'm sure people are tired of hearing these overused therapy jargon, whatever, uh lingo. But at the end of the day, like, I think it's really helpful to put names and understanding to things. And I think if knowing what your attachment style is and how that affects your relationships, if that can help you in some way, like, why not delve into it? Like, man, like, I feel like I'm ranting a lot in this video, but I'm so exhausted of people just telling me what I can and cannot do. Like, I'm an adult. We are adults here. I hope we're adults here. If you're not an adult, what are you doing here, bestie? Please, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're gonna understand a word I'm saying. Anyways, but yeah. So I think it's really helped me to learn that I've had a fearful attachment style. I literally only just learned about a fearful attachment style like 6 months ago, not even 6 months ago at this point. And now that I know and that's resonated with me, I've started to, like, do the inner work with that. And I can already feel the difference in how I'm viewing my relationships, um and what relationships have been successful in my life where I haven't been leading with fear, and what relationships have been unsuccessful in my life where I was 100% leading with fear the whole time. Yeah, I think learning your attachment style can be really helpful. For some of you, it won't be, but I'm sure for a lot of people who are probably going to be watching my video who can resonate with me are going to find learning your attachment style very helpful. So, yeah. Number 26, houseplants make me incredibly happy. I've never been a plant person in all my life. Like, I swear to God, I've always sworn up and down, all around, that I am a plant killer, that no plant can stay alive near me. I don't know what convinced me of that. I don't know if it's because my mom never could keep plants alive, and so I just assumed that I could also never keep plants alive. But I got this apartment 2 years ago, and I wish I could show y'all, but I got a beautiful aloe plant that's busting out the seams right now. I got a Monstera. She's crushing it. Her name's Bonita. I sing her a Spanish lullaby every day. That's from the Cheetah Girls because I just love her so much. She was my first apartment plant because I got these big, beautiful windows in my apartment. So I was like, I have to get a plant in here. So I did, and the Monstera was the first one. And so I sing her the Spanish lullaby uh, from the Cheetah Girls. I think it's the second movie when they go to Barcelona. And yeah, so and then I have a hanging vine plant and some other shit. Anyways, I love plants. They make me so happy. They give me so much serotonin. I was never a plant girly. Now I am. I'm obsessed with them. Every time I have money, I get a plant. I don't know what I used to spend my money on, but now it's plants, and I'm happy with this change. So this is good. I love this. And next is number 27. Support your artists and business friends. Support them. I think oftentimes it's really easy for us when we're looking for things to buy or to get artwork. We're typically looking at Amazon, Target, like big art dealers that we've never talked to or seen or whatever. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to put money back into our community, and I think that starts with your friends. I think if you have a friend who is an artist and who's really talented, like for instance, I have a wonderful friend, Momo. She makes emotes and animated emotes, and she's an incredible Black artist that just is able to get my skin tone and my facial features down to a fucking T. And I instead of going to Etsy or whatever to get animated emotes made, I paid her for animated emotes because she could use the support. And I believe to do that with anything that anyone is doing professionally in their lives. If you have a friend that has a service that could benefit you in some way, you should pay them for it. You should hire them. You should give them the benefit of the doubt. And not only should you pay them for it and hire them, but you should also not ask for discounts. You should pay them their normal full prices because you respect what they do and you respect their business. And I think that's very important. And then you should also tip them if you can. My personal opinion is don't ever ask for a service that you can't pay for. If you can pay for it, ask for it. I mean, if they're willing to do trades and stuff, I've done that before as far as like writing for art and stuff like that. That's totally cool too. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you both have an understanding. But at the end of the day, like I think it's really disrespectful, especially if it's your friend, to to expect them to give you a discount based off of your friendship when that's their livelihood, you know? And it really, sometimes I think it speaks volumes to how much you actually respect their art and their business by how you decide to pay them. So, yeah, I just highly suggest supporting your friends and your family's art and business if you can, because that's what feeds our community. That's what feeds this economy. So it's a big deal. And speaking of community, number 28 is find your community. This is really, really important. I don't care who you are, but if you're a marginalized person in this world like I am, find your community and find it as fast as possible. I know it's really scary, but with the internet now, you can find your community pretty fast. I found a community on Twitch, and since I joined Twitch, I've joined several communities, and there's some of my favorite communities. I met some of my best friends on the internet from these communities. I really didn't feel like I had a community up until I started going on Twitch and then joining Discords and stuff like that. So like really put yourself out of your comfort zone if you can. I know it's hard depending on where you live, especially if you're in a rural area, to find you know, LGBTQIA plus friendly environments or marginalized environments, depending on, your culture, your race, whatever it may be. So I highly suggest using online spaces to find those communities. And then if you're able to, and you trust these people enough and you've gotten to know them enough to touch grass with them, go outside and go travel with them and do things. I'm in the Midwest now in Kansas because of one of my best friends that I met on the internet, and I love her so much, and we do podcasts together sometimes, or book club podcasts that eventually we'll start doing again that we haven't been doing recently because I've been so busy trying to get this YouTube thing sorted. But yeah, I highly suggest finding a community, and there's so many out there and there's so many opportunities, and I think the more that we are in community with each other, the less things that are happening politically and outside of our communities can affect us. I think the more support we show each other, the more we introduce ourselves to our neighbors, the more we get involved with our local communities, I think astronomically that will dictate in the future how things go. So I highly suggest that. And the second to last bullet point here, number 29, is Black is beautiful. You can see it in my username, Black Beauty Forever. It took me a long time to get comfortable in my skin and with my skin color. I always grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and that was really difficult. But for the most part, I fit in. I didn't really see myself differently from these people for a really long time. And then we moved the summer before middle school into a more marginalized, more less middle to upper class area, and suddenly my whole world was flipped upside down. And I was not black enough for the black people and not necessarily white enough for the white people. I was always called an Oreo, black on the outside, white on the inside, whatever that means. People told me that I spoke too white, acted too white. I was a kiss ass to the teachers. No one liked that. It didn't matter. Like, I was ugly. I was called a man. I only had a handful of friends, and they all had issues. So of course I had issues, and to the point where, like, I was so uncomfortable in my skin, I was having like a identity crisis in middle school, to the point where I was literally bleaching my skin. Like, it was one of the most unhealthy things that you could do. I was doing it to my body because I just thought that if I could be a couple of shades lighter, maybe I could find my place in the world. Only to realize that you have to create the space for yourself. No one's going to create it for you. And where that started for me is recognizing that black is beautiful and telling myself that every day, reminding myself that black beauty is forever and that black doesn't crack, and that no matter what anyone says to me, I am feminine and I am wild and I am beautiful and I am loving and caring, and I rejoice in my blackness, and I rejoice in being literate, and I rejoice in my culture, and I rejoice in all the things that make me me, and all the things that I can't change about myself because that's how I was born. And once I came to that conclusion, no one could tell me anything about my skin color that would be daunting to me, that would hurt me. And I still feel that way to this day, even when people are say awful, terrible things to me about my skin color. It has ceased to affect me, and I hope that one day all black women in this country and in other countries can know and be free within the idea that black is beautiful, and that hopefully one day we won't have to convince ourselves, we'll just be born with that knowledge inherently. Yeah. And number 30, last but not least, thinking of 30 life lessons was actually kind of hard, y'all. I swear. It was actually kind of hard. I I've learned so much in my 30 years that it was incredibly difficult to come up with a comprehensive list of 30 lessons. There's so many more lessons than 30. that I've learned that I could even think of these past few weeks while I was preparing for this video. I don't want to cry. But sorry, y'all. I'm a crier. There was a long point in my life where I never even imagined making it to 30. So to be here, to be able to share my life lessons with you all on my 30th birthday, while my parents are on the other side of the country, and I won't be able to spend time with them for one of the biggest birthdays I'll probably have in my life. I'm just so incredibly blessed to be here, to be creative, to have the space that I have to create, and to look forward to the future, and and not be absolutely terrified um of what comes next. Yeah, thank you all so much um for tuning in, and I really hope you get something out of this video. Um yeah. Um that's all I got, y'all. I didn't expect to cry at the end of this video. I pretty much held it in this whole time. But geez Louise. Thank you all so much. I hope you all have a beautiful day in this neighborhood, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.